at 6 starts right now. Well, good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Annette Montgomery. First at 6 tonight, a former lawyer has been released on bond after his manslaughter conviction was overturned.
Now, Robert Fisher was originally found guilty of manslaughter in the 2021 shooting death of a man in a parking lot. Fox 61's Alicia Hercules explains what's next in the case.
Robert Fisher, who is now 80 years old, walked out of the courthouse after serving more than a year in prison. Now he says he's grateful to be back home with his loved ones outside of a cell.
I'm very happy.
Fisher was emotional as he stood outside of the courthouse with his daughter and other family and friends by his side. He says his time in prison was difficult for him mentally.
The most striking part of being in prison is the loss of freedom. It feels like your whole self is being pushed underground.
He says his health has also declined as he served his sentence. Last year, a jury found Fisher guilty of first-degree manslaughter in the death of Matthew Bromley. During the trial, prosecutors said Bromley confronted Fisher and punched him several times while Fisher was sitting in his car in the parking lot of his law office in June 2021. As Bromley walked back to his car, they said Fisher got out of his car with a legal handgun and shot Bromley once in the head at a close distance. Fisher was sentenced to 7 years in prison, which would be suspended after 2.5 years. His conviction was overturned Friday when the appeals court ruled that the trial judge failed to disclose that he had applied to serve as the state's inspector general. The court said this created a potential conflict of interest. Fisher's bond was lowered to $50,000, which he posted after his hearing. Fisher's attorney, John Schoenhorn, says now that his client is out on bond, they're ready for the next steps in the case.
The state has 20 days to decide from last Friday whether or not it will seek further review in the Connecticut Supreme Court.
If the state decides to seek further review, Schoenhorn will have 20 days to file an objection. State's attorney David R. Shannon issued a statement about the ruling. He said, quote, "The state appellate court's decision to reverse the defendant's conviction had nothing to do with actual guilt or innocence or the jury's decision. The decision issued by this court is currently being reviewed by the Division of Criminal Justice's Appellate Bureau, and a decision will be made shortly as to whether or not we will seek review from the state Supreme Court." The state's attorney's office says it's fully prepared and willing to retry the case at any time. Fisher's next court date is scheduled for October 20th. In Torrington, Alicia Hercules, Fox 61.
Well, tonight we are learning more about a family in Burlington whose skeletal remains were found earlier this year in their home on Stanwich Lane. Fox 61's Skylar Music spoke with neighbors and the town's selectman and tells us more about the family and the latest in this devastating case.
We spoke to many homeowners here on Stanwich Lane, including one of the first firefighters to enter the home back in June. Although they didn't want to go on camera, he and other neighbors tell us they can't believe this happened.
It's pretty disturbing knowing that I have some friends living a few households down.
After the home was purchased at a foreclosure auction on June 14th, the new homeowners found 3 sets of skeletal remains. In the search warrant, Burlington police identified the skeletal remains as Paul and Sally Ann Cash, as well as their son, Brian Cash, and say they were all found in separate rooms. A no trespassing sign at the house, along with a row of trees next to it, prevents us from getting close. But police tell us the yard is overgrown and the rooms were cluttered with garbage bags.
A lot of kids were just questioning the whole thing, how did no one notice?
Neighbors who live only houses away tell us they're all friends, but when they tried to include the Cashes, they never responded. In fact, the last time one homeowner saw Paul was around 2023, and she says she never saw his wife or son. So the neighbors eventually thought the Cash's house was abandoned. First Selectman Douglas Thompson says this case has shaken the entire town.
People typically know their neighbors and so on, but there are occasions where there are people that are just a little more private than others. So this is out of character for Burlington.
Police have ruled out foul play and carbon monoxide poisoning as the family's cause of death, but they say the Cashes could have died from malnutrition and hypothermia. In Burlington, Skylar Music, Fox 61.
Today, we've lost a legendary icon in American music. The family of Dolly Parton released a video this afternoon announcing the singer's passing at the age of 80. They say she died peacefully today at her home in Nashville.
Now, the news comes after Parton recently missed the opening of a new ride at Dollywood and canceled her Las Vegas residency because of ongoing health issues. Ashley Dvorkin gives us a look at Parton's career that spanned over a half a century and how she went on to become the queen of country music.
Known for her songwriting, unique fashion, and over-the-top personality, Dolly Parton was not only a music icon, but a trailblazer. Born on January 19, 1946 in Locust Ridge, Tennessee, to Robert Lee Parton and Avie Lee Owens, Parton, the fourth of 12 children, grew up in a one-room cabin in the Smoky Mountains.
There was a boy who loved me dearly.
An early love for music led her to begin writing songs in grade school and making her first appearance at the Grand Ole Opry in 1959 at only 13 years old. No mountain was too high for Parton when she packed her bags after graduating high school and moved to Nashville to begin chasing her musical dreams. She married her longtime husband, Carl Dean, in 1966 and got her first shot at stardom a year later when she joined the Porter Wagner Show in 1967.
And I was lucky that I got a chance to be that exposed to that many people at one time, and that was really what kind of shot me up there and got me a good grip.
After 7 years on the show, Parton decided to pursue her career as a solo artist, and in 1971 debuted her first #1 solo hit, Joshua, followed by other chart toppers like Love is Like a Butterfly, I Will Always Love You, and Jolene.
Jolene, 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 Jolene.
Parton earned many honors and accolades over the decades, including her inductions into the Grand Ole Opry in 1969 and the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1999. She also was awarded the Library of Congress Living Legend Medal in 2004.
I don't know how you're doing on the inside, honey, but your hair's just holding up beautiful.
Parton was introduced to a new audience while acting in famous films, including Steel Magnolias and 9 to 5. She was also known for her business and humanitarian work. Her theme park in Tennessee, Dollywood, opened in 1985, and her charity, Imagination Library, provides over 1 million free books to children each month. Dolly Parton was always busy, from philanthropy to new endeavors, and received recognition throughout her entire career. In November 2022, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Parton initially withdrew her nomination, noting she didn't feel deserving, but later accepted. She released her first rock album, Rockstar, the following year. Among the collaborators on the collection, her goddaughter, Miley Cyrus. In 2024, she announced her life story was heading to Broadway in the musical Hello, I'm Dolly, set to open in 2026. The same year, she launched her own cosmetics brand, Dolly Beauty, and a wine label, Dolly Wines. She released new music that year, too, with Dolly Parton and Family, Smoky Mountain DNA, Family, Faith, and Fables. On March 3, 2025, Parton's husband, Carl Dean, passed away at the age of 82. The two spent nearly 60 years together. June 2025, Dolly announced a limited engagement Las Vegas residency for December. But in September, posted on social media she had to postpone due to health challenges. In her signature Dolly style, she humorously added, "It must be time for my 100,000-mile checkup, although it's not the usual trip to see my plastic surgeon." Dolly told fans she was going to slow down so she can be ready for more big adventures, and shared her love and thanks. With 68 albums and more than 25 #1 hits, Dolly Parton lived her life not straying far from her roots, always keeping a positive outlook on life and her career.
I can look back on a lot of things that's happening. I think, oh, thank you, God. At least my life seems to have made a difference and to have meant something to a lot of people.
And she definitely did. Now, that was Ashley Dvorkin reporting. Dolly Parton also made her mark in Connecticut over the years. In 2006, Parton made her big return to touring at Mohegan Sun. And in 2011, she came to Wallingford's Oakdale Theater as part of a Better Way World Tour. Her organization, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, has also partnered with the United Way of Central and Northeastern Connecticut to provide families registered with free books for their children from birth until the age of 5.
Well, thousands of students started a new school year today, with more eagerly waiting to do the same later this week.
And with kids back in the classroom across Hartford today, the organization Angel of Edgewood held its annual back-to-school extravaganza to help.
Now, Fox 61's Kayla Kay joins us live from Duncan Park, where the event just wrapped up. Kayla?
Yeah, that's right. Seeing people coming out with boxes, packing up their cars. It definitely was such a great event today. It was such a great turnout as well. Now, families were able to come inside Duncan Park here today and was able to get free resources, free book bags, free school supplies, produce, and also get connected with the many resources that we have in our community. And this is the organization's 6th year putting this event on for families in the community. But founder Jendaya Scott says it almost didn't happen. She said it was because of financial challenges that impacted their funds, donors, and supporters. But she knew she couldn't let her community down.
So I just went harder. It was tough, with all of our resources. Everybody wasn't able to be here today, but there was a lot here. Typically, we have the entire concourse filled, but the families, oh my goodness, the families came out and they were so happy.
It was also the first time Angel of Edgewood had their event in the afternoon, and that is because of the school district calendar changes. In Hartford, Kayla Cade, Fox 61.